Letting go is an act of strength, yet it is often followed by an unexpected, haunting emptiness. You release someone, knowing it is the right choice, only to feel their absence more acutely than their presence ever demanded. The paradox is clear. Freedom from attachment comes with the pain of missing what you consciously chose to leave behind. This is the duality of human emotion. Rationally, you know that letting go preserves self-respect, autonomy, and peace. Emotionally, however, the mind resists, clinging to memories, imagined possibilities, and the familiar patterns that once defined your connection. The very act of liberation creates longing, a tension between choice and desire, freedom and attachment. In this video, we will explore why missing someone after letting them go is both natural and strategic. We'll examine the psychological mechanisms behind attachment, memory, and desire, and how the mind perpetuates the paradox. Most importantly, we will reveal how to navigate this tension without being trapped by it, how to honor the pain, maintain clarity, and transform absence into strength. Because letting go does not mean weakness, and missing does not mean defeat. Mastery lies in embracing the paradox without surrendering your autonomy. The paradox of missing someone you let go is rooted in the tension between rational choice and emotional attachment. The mind and heart operate on different principles. The mind seeks clarity, freedom, and preservation of self, while the heart clings to familiarity, comfort, and the patterns that have shaped your experience. Letting go is an act of logic and strategy, yet the emotional residue lingers, creating a complex, often confusing sense of loss. Attachment theory explains much of this tension. Humans form bonds not only based on physical presence but also through repeated emotional experiences. When a connection ends, the mind continues to seek the reward it once provided. Memories, routines, and imagined scenarios keep the emotional circuitry active, creating a craving for something that no longer exists. This craving is not irrational. It is a product of neural pathways designed to preserve bonds and ensure survival. The mind interprets absence as a deficit, amplifying longing even when separation is intentional and necessary. Nostalgia intensifies the paradox. The mind selectively recalls the positive aspects of the relationship, amplifying desire while minimizing the reasons for letting go. This selective memory produces an emotional illusion. The person or situation appears more desirable in absence than they ever were in presence. You miss them not necessarily for who they are, but for what they represented: comfort, validation, or emotional reward. The ego also plays a role. Letting go challenges the sense of control, pride, and self-image. Even when the decision is deliberate, the mind interprets absence as a potential loss of power or relevance. This internal conflict creates tension. You know releasing was correct, yet your ego resists complete acceptance, further fueling longing. Cultural narratives exacerbate the struggle. Stories glorify the pain of separation, framing missing someone as a noble, romantic, or inevitable experience. Social reinforcement normalizes lingering attachment, teaching the mind that longing is meaningful and that absence validates emotional depth. These messages intensify the paradox. You feel both justified in missing them and frustrated by the persistence of that feeling. Physiologically, the brain reinforces this cycle. Dopamine spikes when recalling memories, creating fleeting pleasure, while cortisol rises with longing, stress, and anticipation. The chemical interplay keeps attention anchored to absence, creating a loop of desire and tension. The mind perceives loss as urgent, even when the choice to let go was deliberate and healthy. Understanding this paradox reveals an essential truth. Missing someone after letting them go is not weakness, obsession, or failure. It is the mind's natural response to attachment, memory, and emotional reward systems. Awareness of these mechanisms allows you to observe the pain without being consumed by it, transforming longing from a trap into a tool for clarity, self-mastery, and emotional resilience. The paradox of missing someone you let go is everywhere, quietly shaping human behavior. People experience lingering longing for former partners, friendships, or even opportunities they deliberately abandoned. The emptiness feels sharp, yet the release was necessary. This is the tension of conscious choice clashing with emotional habit, the paradox that both empowers and unsettles. In romantic relationships, this tension is most evident. Someone may leave a relationship for their own well-being, to preserve identity, maintain dignity, or escape toxicity, yet find themselves haunted by memories, small gestures, or imagined possibilities. The absence triggers a craving for emotional reward the relationship once provided. Every memory can feel like both a comfort and a sting, reminding them of what was lost while reinforcing why the separation was essential. Even in friendships or professional contexts, the paradox exists. Distancing oneself from a toxic friend, a manipulative colleague, or an unfulfilling pursuit often leads to reflection and longing. The mind struggles to reconcile the rational act of release with emotional attachment. You remember the shared moments, the potential, the imagined what could have been, creating a persistent tension between reason and desire. Cultural messaging intensifies this struggle. Songs, literature, and social narratives romanticize absence, portraying longing as proof of depth and maturity. Social media compounds the effect, offering constant reminders of what is gone, reinforcing the emotional imprint. The mind internalizes these signals, elevating memories into symbols of significance and amplifying the sense of loss. Physiologically, the body participates in this cycle. Dopamine spikes when recalling memories or imagining scenarios, producing fleeting pleasure that reinforces attention on absence. Simultaneously, cortisol rises with longing, anxiety, and the recognition of what is unattainable. The chemical interplay keeps the mind engaged, creating a loop of craving and reflection. The result is the feeling of being tethered to someone you consciously chose to release. The paradox lies in the duality. Letting go is the act of liberation, yet missing someone demonstrates attachment persists. The mind reacts as if it were deprived of essential reward, even though reason knows that release was necessary. Understanding this tension is crucial. It allows the recognition that longing is natural, but it does not require regression or compromise of self. Awareness and perspective transform what could be a trap into insight. Every person who has experienced deliberate release knows this reality. Absence can feel heavier than presence, freedom can feel lonely, and clarity can feel emotionally uncomfortable. Yet this is the price of autonomy. The paradox is not punishment. It is a measure of emotional depth and the mind's capacity for attachment. By observing the pattern without surrendering to it, you maintain control over your feelings while honoring the experience, turning longing into a tool for growth rather than a source of regret. The first step to navigating the paradox of missing someone you let go is radical acceptance. Understand that longing is natural. It does not indicate failure or weakness. Missing someone is a byproduct of attachment and emotional investment. Accept the feeling without judgment, and you remove its power to dominate your actions. Awareness transforms emotional tension into insight rather than suffering. Next, redefine your perspective on absence. Letting go is not loss, it is liberation. You release the person, situation, or opportunity because it no longer aligned with your growth, values, or well-being. Reframe longing as a signal that you acted with clarity and self-respect, not as evidence that the decision was wrong. This cognitive shift reinforces your autonomy and reduces regret. Redirect emotional energy deliberately. Longing often occupies mental space that could fuel growth, creativity, or self-improvement. Engage in activities that strengthen identity and purpose. Cultivate skills, pursue goals, deepen meaningful relationships, and invest in your well-being. The mind begins to associate intensity with constructive engagement rather than unfulfilled attachment. Establish mental boundaries to prevent obsessive rumination. Limit triggers that provoke memories or imagined scenarios. Avoid constant exposure to reminders that reinforce attachment, such as social media profiles or nostalgic objects. Instead, create intentional mental spaces for reflection, clarity, and gratitude for lessons learned. Boundaries reinforce emotional sovereignty and reduce the pull of longing. Practice controlled detachment. Detachment is not indifference. It is the ability to feel without being consumed. Observe memories, emotions, and imagined what-ifs without acting impulsively or indulging in rumination. This cultivates resilience, allowing the mind to process absence without compromise of selfhood. Reinforce meaning through self-validation. People often miss what they let go because they tie their sense of significance to external presence. Build an internal sense of worth and accomplishment independent of others. Celebrate decisions that prioritize integrity and growth. Self-validation anchors emotional stability and prevents longing from translating into self-doubt. Finally, embrace the paradox as a tool for mastery. Missing someone you let go is a mirror, reflecting your capacity for attachment, depth, and emotional complexity. Instead of viewing it as suffering, see it as an opportunity to cultivate clarity, discipline, and autonomy. When you harness the tension between desire and release strategically, the mind and heart align in deliberate control. By combining acceptance, perspective shift, redirection, boundaries, detachment, and self-validation, you transform longing from a chain into a guide. You maintain autonomy, honor your emotions, and use the paradox as a tool for emotional mastery. Absence no longer destabilizes, it clarifies. You no longer suffer from what you released, you are strengthened by it. Missing someone you let go is a paradox that tests both heart and mind. It is the tension between choice and attachment, freedom and longing, clarity and desire. Yet this experience is not a sign of weakness. It is proof of depth, emotional awareness, and the courage to act deliberately. The power lies in perspective. Letting go does not equal loss. It is liberation. The pain of absence reflects attachment, not failure. By reframing longing as a signal rather than a chain, you reclaim control over your mind and emotions. Absence becomes a teacher, showing where autonomy, boundaries, and self-respect are necessary. Deliberate action transforms this paradox into strength. Redirect your energy toward growth, skills, meaningful relationships, and personal goals. Establish boundaries that preserve clarity and prevent obsessive rumination. Observe emotions without surrendering to them. Validate yourself internally rather than relying on external presence. In doing so, you align desire with strategy, longing with self-mastery. Ultimately, the paradox teaches mastery over the very emotions that once seemed uncontrollable. It reveals that freedom, clarity, and strength coexist with longing. You can feel deeply, acknowledge the void, and still remain untouchable by attachment. You no longer chase what is gone. Instead, you harness the tension to refine purpose, build resilience, and cultivate emotional sovereignty. Remember, missing someone is natural, but being consumed by it is optional. When you embrace the paradox consciously, absence strengthens rather than diminishes. You are free, deliberate, and untouchable, capable of honoring both your heart and your autonomy. In mastering this tension, you do not merely survive the pain of letting go. You transform it into power.